Oh man, what a beautiful thing to behold. The Gibson ES-335. And today, we're gonna go into a deep dive of what Ted McCarty wanted to make the acoustic electric guitar, basically. The ES-335 came out in 1958. Ted McCarty said, hey man, we got this solid body guitar thing going, but why don't we make an acoustic looking guitar? You know, kind of sounds more acoustic-y. And they came out with the semi-hollow, which basically has maple block right down the middle. And one of the new things to this model, I believe it actually started on the ES-175 in 57, was the addition, thanks to Seth Lover, people question this, of the humbucking pickup. Long story short, all the pickups before that, they got a hum. The reason it's called humbucking is because it bucks the hum. Seth Lover, love you. You bucked the hum. Seth Lover said, hey, you know what? We have these humbucking choke that we use to make amps less buzzy. Like, humbucking, who would have thought of it? And then he made these pickups called the PAF because they released them before they had the patent official, because they knew if they patented it, Leo Fender wasn't gonna fuck with them. The irony is that Ted McCarty actually patented the Les Paul, he patented the Flying V, and the Gibson Modern that never existed, but not the ES-335. That said, they put these humbucking pickups in the ES-335, the Electric Spanish 335. That's what it stood for, because it was supposed to be like a Spanish style guitar. What has happened now is you've got one of the most classic designs in the history of freaking time. I mean, you have B.B. King, you have Larry Carlton, you have Eric Clapton, you know, played his Cherry ES-335 on the Cream record, so he inspired everybody. Eric Clapton, you know, before everyone knew he was a hateful, mean person. And that guy, Larry Carlton, I don't know if he was playing one when he got shot. I don't know if you know that. That guy who played with Steely Dan and Joni Mitchell, he's like a Jedi in the studio. Larry Carlton. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's freaking awesome. He played a 335. Some people even call him Mr. 335. So today, I'd like to go in deep on some guitars. This one, the internet brought me, and I thank the internet for it. It's a 2001 ES-335, and what I really love about it, it's got the tobacco sunburst, so it's about as classic as they come, but it's got this nice little wavy flame, and they're not meant to have super nice tops. Some of them do, but most of them don't, not the 59s and stuff, but just a little bit like, hey, hi, I matter. You look at its butt and you're like, oh, you look good in mom jeans. This is, mwah. It's just a beautiful guitar. But the thing I have to say about the ES-335, I haven't played one that I thought sucked. I really have not played one. Like, their most consistently amazing guitar from Gibson Guitars. And I love it. So that's the 2001. So you have to understand, you gotta judge a guitar by the other guitars that are coming out, right? So the year that this thing came out, the Gibson Flying V, the Gibson Explorer, and you had the ES-335. Jim behind the camera likes to aptly call these things burst killers, because the truth is there's a lot of people that say, hey, the Les Paul, the 59, the 60 with the patent applied for humbuckers, those are the bee's knees. That is the greatest that anyone could ever hope to get for tone. And then the ES-335 walks in and says, hold my freaking crystal meth pipe. Here we are. I'm gonna be better sounding than you. And the truth is, there isn't a right answer, but they're both incredible guitars. And for me, as much as I love Les Pauls, I have found plenty I don't like. I have yet to find ones of the ES-335 that I would throw out of bed. None of them, especially this 1972. First off, I love the fact it has these embossed pickups that says Gibson. Because if you couldn't tell from the headstock and the fact that it's an ES-335, it's a Gibson. And I can understand, because Ibanez and a bunch of other, overseas Tokai and all that were copying this guitar. And that's because it's freaking amazing. I mean, this guitar is also super classic. This is what I think of when I think of ES-335s as far as like that kind of sunbursty finish, but this is a very Norlin era kind of like around the moon kind of sunbursty finish. The back is nice. It's got some bird's eye in there going, I can see you. And it's got the double Kluson tuners with this huge ass volute. Now, a lot of people think these are dumb, but having broken many a headstock on guitars, they're not, because you could just drop. Just kidding, Jim. All right, next one. I had this guitar strung up as a 6-string for years because I didn't have a 335 and this was the only one that I could afford. And I thought the universe brought this to me because this is a 1968 ES-335 TD. So the TD, you have these blocks versus just the normal dots. More expensive at the time, I believe less expensive as far as people actually want the dots. So the more inlay on the ES-335s usually makes it less expensive. But this guitar is awesome because it's a 68, man. It's a golden era and it's beautiful, beautiful condition. And the reason I say it was meant for me is because I got this off the internet. I traded a crappy Kurzweil keyboard and $1,000 for a 68 ES-335 12, okay? The guy bought it from Gordon's Music. I worked there. That was my first job. And when he bought it, I was one of the only people working there. So I am 95% sure that my 15-year-old self sold this guitar to the guy that sold it to me off Craigslist. And it's just a beautiful guitar. And the reason I had it strung up as a 6-string is because, well, I didn't always have so many guitars, and I did not want to leave out the ES-335 sound because it really has a beautiful sound. And if that's not cool, that you could just still in tune, guys. Ball to the ball, to dang, dicky dick. I don't know if they're white bobbins or black bobbins. Now that's another thing. People go absolutely bananas. Is it a white bobbins? Which just means that the plastic piece. Is it a black pickup or is it a white pickup or is it a zebra pickup? And it's because the company that was supplying Gibson with plastic ran out of black. That's it. There's no more to that story. They just ran out of black. So like, do you want white? Maybe we can mix white with black. It'll look like a zebra. And these witch hat knobs, these things they just scream golden era Gibson. This is as cool as they come. I think if you go on a Reverb and you try just to buy a set of these, you'll pay an awful bunch because people try to restore these guitars. And this is all original. And if you look, the other one was a 1972. This is a 1968. There is no volute because people had more reverence for the guitars and not enough of them had broken yet for them to develop a non-breakable headstock. And let me tell you, they're all breakable. I also love the double triangles. It's just cool because it's a long headstock. And one of my buddy Scott Riebling, great bass player and producer, he told me, you know, having a longer headstock gives you more sustain. I don't know if that's true, but I have to imagine more wood, better. Moving on. All right, kids, are you strapped in? Are you ready? We're gonna go a little deeper. Yeah, it's not an ES-335. There's some other guitars that came out. In the late 70s, early 80s, there was the ES-347. First off, how cool is this custom-made thing? I mean, it's kind of like wearing a sign that says you're special, but because it's a Gibson, I think it's special. Then you have this thing called a Bigsby, which I've determined does virtually nothing. Cannot play Pantera on it or look like you're jerking off your ES-347. I love this guitar for a bunch of reasons. First off, people try to relic guitars. This is what an actual relic guitar that's been played for 40-something years looks like. You got the belt back here. You got some crackety cracks in the nitro, some check-in. This neck is just divine. Like, this is what you dream of as far as if you go to the Murphy Labs and have them pull it around in the parking lot behind their truck. You know, that's what they do. They actually attach the headstock to their Dodge Ram, and then they just pull this, and then they'll buff it out to kind of give it the feel, but it's not the same feel as having the guy in the Journey cover band just sweating like a priest at a Cub Scout meet for like 45 years. Just, ooh, I'm not gonna stop believing. Keels over and dies, and then Jim gets it on reverb with these badass pickups. They're P90 Fragrance. And they got this tortoiseshell thing on them. When you go to the middle, the reverse polarity. And now I'm not talking Egon Spangler from Ghostbusters. I'm talking like you go from sounding noisy to not noisy, because the ES-335, as we've learned, has a humbucking pickup. And because of that coil, the extra coil, it bucks the hum. The P90, not so much. So Lindy Fralin has this awesome thing where he reverses the polarity. This apparently is a dead switch, because it used to have all kinds of weird phasey things and all that, and that guy's like, nah, I think, Jim, you should make this a kill switch. So it goes. Another thing that you find in some of these 70s and early 80s things is this adorable little, do you see this? It pulls out. Girls, you gotta love that, right? And you can tune it this way. As if doing it this way was too much of an inconvenience. Pull it out. Thank you. And during this late 70s, early 80s Norlin era, we have these very, very soft brass nuts. The other thing that's really cool about it is that it has an ebony board with the blocks. So it's kind of more like the ES-355, which is not pictured because I can't afford one. But the ES-355 is the stereo version of the ES-335, except that it has ebony with the blocks and all the extra stuff and the gold, but it was stereo. If you get a mono one, they're way more expensive, but either way, you can't afford it. The ES-355, it's basically like if you had a 335 and you want to be cooler than the other guy in the band, shows up with like, hey man, you see you got my gold? Do you see mine's stereo, I can go to 2 amps. You're an asshole, you're fired! We're going rare, man. Now I'm gonna preface this by saying there's multiple ES-150s. This is the one that matters. This is the cool one. This is the ES-150 from 1969. 69, dude! The difference, mainly, it's a full hollow body. So hold on, just for scientific purposes. Am I good? My sciatica is acting up. Sciatica! See that, guys? I hurt myself for you. This one also has patent sticker pickups that are extremely nice and very desirable. The only thing that's been changed is like, which a lot of them had, like this is probably an early 70s bridge right here. Period correct Grover tuners. And I got it off the internet. Before reverb, Craigslist was the greatest. I got this for $1,400 with the original case. And the guy was like, oh, it's in bad condition because it has this. Someone wore a belt. Other than that, like there's really almost no checking. Unfortunately, I could see my face. And so you guys know, the same machine since 1958 has been making these pressed tops out of maple, poplar, spruce. They're basically laminate backs. So like if you thought it was all just wood, it is laminate wood. But that's been since the dawn of time because they're still using the same machine. I bet you they're still paying the guy still $1.75 like they did in 1958. This guitar has the rosewood fretboard and also has the block inlays versus the dot. And the big thing for all you jazz guys, because I'm Benny Goodman, the king of swing, it has a master volume. Personally, I keep it at 10. If anything, I would make this go up to 11 and like just click and it's like a 20 decibel boost and then it's like, fuck you. Let's set the coordinates. But you know, George Benson fucking did. You know, all those, they rolled down they're like, oh, I'm gonna keep it at 3. And I don't have that brain power. But if you wanted a bigger ass like Kim Kardashian, screw the ES-335, get the ES-150. 69! They say the people that watch this channel are dudes. I don't know why. Hold on, gotta get more. All right, now that we're in the bunny hole with the bunny, here's the bunny, a 1972 ES-325. If you haven't heard me lament over the dum-dum from Kings of Leon that destroyed this guitar on stage and then said, Gibson, please fix it for me. And the thing about the ES-325 is that it's fully hollow. It doesn't really have a full center block, and it's got Firebird pickups. And it's got one F-hole and then this like cover thingy, which I'm showing you this because this guitar that's coming up next, I kind of made it look almost like this by putting a cover over it. We'll get there, but it was inspired by the 325. I didn't know what a 325 was when I did it, but apparently that's where I took it from. Definitely looks like all those 70s guitar. It's poo-poo brown, which again lets you know it's 70s. This one's is in an astonishing condition. I'm pretty sure the dude like opened up the case and was like, I like flute. Lastly, I know, you see it's not a Gibson, right? It doesn't even say Gibson on the humbucker. So it's not a Gibson. It's actually an Epiphone. But don't leave yet. It was made in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is now the Heritage Factory, but was the Gibson factory. And it's essentially the exact same thing as an ES-125T. This was the Epiphone Granada, which is the E-444T. There used to be this disgusting Bakelite pickguard and just one lipstick pickup. The guy before me took all that out. So there's this mint condition guitar completely hollowed out. I'm like, I'm never gonna find that pickguard, and it's weird, and lipstick pickups sound like bullshit. So I did what most people do with these, and I turned it into basically a dual pickup cutaway, almost looks like an ES-175. But this is a 1960 Kalamazoo, Michigan made Epiphone that I bought for $30 at an antique store. $30. And then I put two 57 pickups. My buddy had to like build it up because there's a little thing here or whatever. So what we have is a 1960 Epiphone Granada with two humbuckers. And not only does it sound awesome, it cost me literally more for the pickups than it did for the guitar. So now I have an American-made in the Gibson factory, now the Heritage Factory, similar to the 175. So in summation, Ted McCarty used to work for this company called Gibson before he was on a Paul Reed Smith. And he came up with a guitar called the ES-335, Seth Lover, humbucking pickup, because he saw the amp, and B.B. King, and Eric Clapton, Alvin Lee, Larry Carlton, all these dudes, the Edge from U2. Remember when you pretended to like U2 in college to get laid? They all play ES-335s. And for me, that's good enough.
Why don't you smash that subscribe button already?